Thank you very much. I tell you, folks, I've been across the state quite a lot, and I've heard 3, 4 good talks already. We could call it a night and say we've heard everything that was important to hear. It's unbelievable. Steve and Ken, thanks for everything. Ken, you will be a good treasurer here. Michelle, I love your, where's Michelle? She's back there, so way in the back. I love your passion. You know, you really learn something in the tough times. And I tell you, when sometimes you win, things are going good, you don't know why. But she'll never lose by 11 votes again. She'll win by 100, no problem. I have confidence. I can see that passion there whatsoever. I was grateful this week that Ken Waller endorsed me. Of course, Paul Kurtman has been with me for a while. What a fine young man, this Paul Kurtman. I just got off the phone with him about an hour ago, and I said, Paul, we got to hang around more together. We need to spend time together. And I said, not that you need to be with me, but I need to be with you. And that's what's great. I'm an old guy, and I got this gray hair, and I'm interested in ensuring that whatever I do in this race, just as you folks have been saying, we got to pass the baton off to the younger folks. Nathan, where are you? You wrote about the pledge there? Is that you? Yeah, Nathan? Yeah, Nathan did a good job. You said you're in 8th grade, is that right? Yeah. Oh, it's over here. Okay, these lights here, this is like a stage going on here. Hey, Nathan, I've got to tell you a story. And when I was in 7th grade, and go ahead and sit down, and you don't have to be embarrassed, that's okay. And good to have you here. I got involved in politics in 7th grade, Nathan, and going door to door, passing out a book called A Choice Not of Echo for the Barry Goldwater campaign in 1964. And, you know, so you're knocking on the doors, going around the different neighborhoods, and I'll never forget one guy opened his door, screen door, and I said, sir, would you like a copy of a book that could help change the world? Well, it's more like this, because I was little, he was tall, you know, change the world. He looks at the book, opens it up, tears it in half, throws it at my face, slams the door, and I thought, wow, this is all about politics. So get ready for a battle, Nathan. You're just beginning here, but it's important to keep fighting. So I started back then. You know, the 9 most terrifying words in the English language, many of you have heard this before, I borrowed this from Ronald Reagan. I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Yeah, right. He'd go running the opposite direction real fast. You know, and then also borrowing something from Ronald Reagan, he was pretty good at putting things in common sense terminology, these tougher economic terms. You read the paper, you don't believe anything, you shouldn't believe anything. In terms of what's a recession, what's a depression, those definitions. You know, a definition of a recession is when your neighbor loses their job. A definition of depression is when you lose your job. And of course, a definition of a recovery is when Clara McCaskill loses her job. So, woo! Woohoo! You know, Ronald Reagan was right when he said, freedom prospers when religion is vibrant and the rule of law under God is acknowledged. I want to spend just a few minutes to tell you a little bit about myself. And I want to tell you already, I first heard the term rhino many years back. I came back, I heard it out in California from something called the California Republican Assembly. And I came back and talked to my dad and said, we might need to start something like that in Missouri. So we started the Missouri Republican Assembly many years back. My dad's passed away. But I heard about rhino, and I guess I've always seemed to be on the outside trying to poke people to get back to our Constitution, back to our fundamentals. And this is what you guys do such a good job, standing firm for, emulating, involved in fighting this fight. I'm absolutely convinced if we had this crowd scattered throughout Missouri, the folks that you are right here tonight, we wouldn't have any problem at all. And yeah, just as Ken was talking about, there's some rhinos out there that are interested in seeing different candidates come in the race. But I was at a debate in Joplin 2 nights ago. I'm losing track of time. 2 nights ago. And someone said, what about so-and-so who's thinking about coming to the race? You guys have any concern? And of course, he asked Congressman Aiken the question. He was talking about, the extreme liberals. And Sarah Steelman, she just wandered off with some kind of answer. I never could quite understand what she says. But and said, Mr. Brunner. And I said, well, you know, I've been across this state a whole lot. And I've talked to hundreds of people. And I have yet to hear one person come up to me and tell me what the citizens of Missouri really need is another politician. And I said, that's the problem. We have far too many politicians, frankly, that I'm afraid that they've made a career out of it. Our founding fathers had no desire to think about people making a career in politics. Year after year, continuing to go forward, all the pensions and all the benefits. So let me tell you a little bit about myself, folks, and maybe where my roots are and where I came from. And maybe there's something there that sticks with you tonight. And maybe there's some way we can join together in this battle going forward to save our republic. You know, my sense of duty has always called me to serve. I served as a leader in the Marines, as mentioned earlier. I was a platoon commander. This was near the end of the Vietnam War era. And we were part of a ready reaction force that spent a lot of time in the Mediterranean, the North Atlantic, East and West Coast. But I spent 4 years there, talk about literal boots on the ground. And a lot of the folks that were coming in the military at that time, we had some Marines there that it's one of those things, you know, go to jail or join the Marines. So I wouldn't call this the most up-and-coming, best and brightest people that society would look at. Not people with fancy resumes, not people with a lot of money. Obviously, the people with the deferments were doing that thing. But I tell you what, as Marines, these young kids, of course, we were all kids back then. I was the old guy, 3 years older than they were. But these young kids put their heart in, and they did everything they were told, and they went wherever they were told, and they were ready to go into action anytime. Now, fortunately, we weren't called into combat, but I learned a whole lot from living, breathing, working, training with these young Marines in half the world. I learned a lot of great principles of leadership in the Marine Corps. You know, I've seen a couple of the other services out here, you guys from Army and Air Force. I mean, you know, you could have been a Marine, but that's understandable, you know. There's a certain pecking order. You start with the brightest, go with the Air Force, and they work their way down to the bottom of the Marine Corps, so someone has to do the low-life job. And let's see, was it Ken or Steve? Which one was in the Navy here? Steve. Yeah, right, yeah. We were talking earlier about his job in the Navy was basically to arrest all the drunk Marines and bring them back on board ship. So I had two days in Palma de Mallorca, or was it Barcelona, on shore patrol. That is a tough job, bringing drunk Marines back to port to a ship. It needs a big tough guy like that guy to be able to do it. But I tell you, we learned a lot of good things in the Marine Corps, and one of the early principles was lead, follow, or get out of the way. Lead, follow, or get out of the way. And that was a charge to me as a young Marine and to every Marine, and it's a charge to all of us here as we're fighting for our republic. Lead, follow, or get out of the way. I was fortunate to roll in some years forward, and I had the great fortune to invite and have join our company on our board of directors, the 29th Commandant of the Marine Corps, General Al Gray. Now, General Gray is quite the Marine. This is the guy, when you go to the Pentagon and see all the pictures of the Marines with all their dress uniforms and all their medals, General Al Gray is there wearing his utility uniform, his picture, no medals. General Gray started as a private, grew up on East Jersey Shore, worked his all the way up to 4 stars. And of course, he'd be sitting in these board meetings, he'd still have his red man chewing tobacco in a styrofoam cup, and he'd be spitting during these board meetings. And I'll never forget one time he said, well, I can't tell you exactly what he